This is Co-op HD1 HD3 Hornsby, radio for people, not for profit. Welcome to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Each week, we explore how your library is more than books. The library is knowledge, technology, and inspiration for our community. Hey, we're your hosts today, Kanya Lyons and...
Hey, I'm Mike Wheat.
And today we have some amazing guests on the show, Librarians Patti Fowler and
the magnificent
Ann
Patti
Minner.
Fowler and Ann Minner, the voice.
And they're going to walk us through the best of the 2017 National Book Awards. So before we get into that whole book award discussion, let's introduce each of you and tell us a little bit about where you work and what you do. Ann, let's start with you.
Hi, I am the managing librarian at the Old Quarry Branch Library, and you may have heard my voice when I do the listings for children every week. So that's me.
The voice.
The voice.
I may have heard your voice.
Maybe, a couple times.
I hear your voice when it's not even playing.
So that tape under your bed is working?
Yes, thank you very much
Excellent.
for that.
You're welcome.
And Miss Patti?
Yes, I'm Patti Fowler. I am a regional branch operations manager, and I work with the branches in the Northwest. And I get to work with amazing people every day, like Miss Ann Minner
She's
here
my boss.
at Old Quarry. And we love what we do, and we're glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
Patti Fowler with the Northwest
Thanks
Power.
for coming on.
Nice.
Nice.
Thank you.
So, what can you tell us about the National Book Awards, Patti? Like a little background.
Well, the National Book Awards are awarded every year in November by the National Book Foundation. Each year, a work of adult fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and young adult literature are awarded every year. And the mission of the National Book Awards is to celebrate the best of American literature, to expand its audience, and to enhance the cultural value of good writing in America.
Well, that sounds
Fantastic.
noble.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit more about who some of the nominees were this year.
Okay, I'll start with some of the adult fiction. One of the books that was nominated is entitled Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This book is at the top of all of the must-reads of 2017. It is a gorgeous story. It is an epic saga of a Korean family told over 4 generations. The family story begins in 1910 with a fisherman and his wife. They have 4 sons. Only one of the sons survives to adulthood. His name is Huni. And Huni is very kind and very generous. He does have physical deformities, but he marries and he has a daughter. Later, the daughter becomes pregnant when she is 16. Her name is Sunya, and she refuses to reveal the father's identity, but she does accept a proposal of marriage from a gentle, sickly minister, and he takes her to Japan. And so this story really explores how Koreans immigrate to Japan, how they are treated, they are not treated well. And so over a 70-year period, much of this book takes place in Japan.
Wow.
The characters have to make a lot of decisions. What food will they eat? What language will they speak? How will they dress? What about their manners? And they know that they have a better chance for success if they can pass for Japanese. So it's a very, very good story.
Success at Pachinko?
Can I ask a quick question? Is it told in like the first person, or is it like an omniscient narrator?
It's an omniscient narrator.
Okay,
And,
so does the audience or the reader, do they know who the father is?
they do.
curious.
They do know. They
have
do
to
know,
read
but
this book.
she won't tell it. She will not tell who the father is. Would you like to know who the father is?
No.
Well,
Okay.
I want to read the book. I
can
want to
tell
read the
you.
book and find out.
Okay.
Tell me after the show.
Okay. Another nominee is called The Leavers by Lisa Ko, and this is just a heartbreaking story. This story centers around a young Chinese immigrant, Polly, who goes to work one day. It takes place in America. She goes to work to a nail salon, and she does not come home. No one can find a trace of her. She leaves behind her 13-year-old son, who is, of course, bereft and mystified what has happened to his mother. She's all he has. He is eventually adopted by a pair of college professors who are white. They change his name to Daniel, and they move from the Bronx to upstate New York.
He's 14?
He's a teenager, yes, he's a young teen. And this book is told both from the perspective of Daniel and his mother. And for much of the book, we don't know what happened to his mother. But far from all he's ever known, Daniel struggles to reconcile his adoptive parents' desire that he assimilate with his memories of his mother and the community he left behind. So it's a moving story of how a boy comes into his own when everything he loves is taken away, and how a mother learns to live with her mistakes of the past.
Wow.
So
Yes.
a coming-of-age story and...
Very, very beautifully written. Just a gorgeous story. The winner of this year's National Book Award for Adult Fiction is called Sing, Unburied, Sing by Jesmyn Ward. We remember Jesmyn Ward from the Mayor's Book Club from several years ago. She won the National Book Award for Salvage the Bones. And in this story, it is set in rural Mississippi. And it is just a beautifully rendered book of rich characters, a strong sense of place. It is the story of Jojo, a young black boy who lives with his grandparents, Mam and Pop, and his toddler sister, and the occasional presence of his drug-addicted mother. She finds out that the father of her children, Jojo and Kayla, is being released from prison, Parchment Farm, which is the Mississippi State Penitentiary. She loads them up, and this book is centered around that road trip. When they are going to Parchment Farm to pick up the father. So,
Wow. I can't wait to.
I know, you want to read all of them, don't you?
I know. Oh, wow.
How do you have time for all of this?
how do I what?
How do you have time to read all of this?
Oh, I just read at work every day.
That's
That's what I do.
That's all
Isn't
we
that what
do.
librarians do?
But there is a short list and a long list. So when you go on the website, there's a long list which has about 8 or 10 books, and then they shorten it to about 4 or 5, and then they pick the winner. So there are even more.
Oh, wow.
If you would like to go.
Well, let's talk more about this right after this. We're going to listen to an audio clip real quick. For the listeners, this is Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show, which is streaming out on Co-op 91.7 FM, and we're also broadcasting. And details about the show are at austintexas.gov/volumes. So we are about to play an audio clip from Nicole Bennett, who is a scientist, a comedian, and a library fan. And she kind of talks a little bit about her relationship with the library. So let's roll that clip.
I'm Nicole. I'm currently a data science instructor at General Assembly. Before that, I was a biologist working on butterflies and climate change. I guess with libraries, I grew up with libraries. It was always my most favorite thing to do was to go to the library, and I would check out a book on dinosaurs and a book on an artist, and it was just like the best thing ever. The only way to punish me as a kid was to take away my library card. To this day, I'm 29 now, so I still have no sort of idea of how many books I'm able to read versus how many I want to pick up at the time. So it's usually too many. I ride the bus downtown all the time, so it's kind of one of my favorite parts of my morning commute if I'm coming down a little later to pop by the library, see what I have on hold. It's also one of my happy places. Like, I work downtown as well, and I do a lot of improv comedy downtown. But sometimes if you're downtown too long, I don't have a car, so I can get stuck downtown sometimes. Sometimes if I just need a break, I'll just come to the library and just hang out and browse books. I check out all sorts of books in the library. So I think that the library touches every facet of my life. I'm one of those people that does too many things. But I have, at any part of my life, whether it's doing improv comedy or learning to teach kids programming more, or just kind of my own interest in science, or if it's my own personal development, like, oh, how do I not be such a perfectionist? The library has always had some kind of resource there for me. I tend to like to over-research and over-read about things, but the library has always had something there for me, whether it's like a professional thing or something in my very personal life. I come from a science background, so often we talk about funding as well, and something that doesn't seem immediately valuable, like some kind of science study that doesn't seem to immediately impact lives, often it's kind of hard to argue for funding for that. But I really believe that things like this are an investment. Something like a library is even more impactful. It's it's like a magical center of democracy. Like anybody can go in the library and check out something and receive an education. And it's just a beautiful resource and just makes everything better.
I just love how she calls the library a magical center of democracy. I think of it that way, too. So Blair Parsons was unable to record the events this week, so you're going to get myself and Michael Wheat doing it. This is what's happening around town at the Austin Public Library. Que me cuentas, the Central Library's Spanish language short story discussion group, meets from 6 to 7:30 p.m. every Wednesday on the Central Library's 5th floor, Juliet Balcony. I love that. The group practices their Spanish through the reading of stories in Spanish and discussion in English and Spanish. The next meeting of Que Me Cuentas happens Wednesday, November 29th at 6 p.m. at the Central Library. So that's today. Oh. Y'all.
Well, and then Tuesday, December 5th at the Twin Oaks Branch Library, we'll host Life Story Memoir Writing. This collaboration program provides participants the opportunity to practice their craft and learn from others in conversation gathering. Life Story Memoir Writing begins at 10 a.m. Tuesday morning, December 5th at the Twin Oaks Branch. Now let's hear about the teen and children events from our librarians.
Hey there, Austin. Teen Program Specialist Michael Harley from the Downtown Central Library here. We're so happy to announce the return of So Happy. Teens can try their hand with a needle and thread as they patch together a fuzzy felt creation. In keeping with the holiday season, crafters will be sewing gingerbread houses this month. This program is open to sewers of all experience levels. So Happy comes together at the Manchac Road branch on Tuesday, December 5th at 5 p.m. More details for these and additional programs can be found at library.austintexas.gov/events.
This is Ann Minner, Managing Librarian at the Old Quarry Branch. I get to highlight a few Austin Public Library kids events happening in December. Play is a great way to help develop and reinforce early literacy skills. This winter, Austin Public Library has partnered with Vroom to provide special early literacy playgroups across Austin. These come-and-go programs, hosted by youth librarians, are designed to give caregivers and their children time to explore together. Toys, board books, and a weekly craft will be provided. The programs are recommended for children aged 3 to 5. Playgroups will gather Wednesday, December 6th at 11 a.m. at the Twin Oaks Branch, Thursday, December 7th at 11:15 at the Ruiz Branch, Tuesday, December 12th at 10:15 a.m. at the Pleasant Hill Branch, Thursday, December 14th at 11 a.m. at the Manchac Road Branch, Friday, December 15th at 10:30 a.m. at the Housen Branch, Monday, December 18th at 11 a.m. at the Hampton Branch at Oak Hill, and Wednesday, December 20th at 10:15 a.m. at the Old Quarry Branch. Playing is learning. Details are at library.austintexas.gov/events.
If you have an old vehicle that can no longer be on the road, we can get it out of your way. With the Co-op Car Donation Program, we pick up your old car, truck, or boat. Get some space back in your garage while helping Co-op. For more info, call us at 877-750-KOOP or visit koop.org.
You're listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show on Co-op 91.7 FM and koop.org. Radio for people, not for profit.
This is Joe,
Martha,
and Lisa,
co-hosts of Writing on the Air.
Do you like to read?
Do you like to write?
We do too, and we love bringing you the best authors and other creative types from Texas and beyond.
Listen to Writing on the Air every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time.
Voted Best Book Discussion in the Austin Chronicle's 2015 Best of Austin.
Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m.
on 91.7 FM
or koop.org.
Welcome back. You listen to Volumes on Co-op Radio. Before our announcements, we listened to an audio clip of scientist, comedian, and library fan Nicole Bennett. Nicole appears in a short video about the library that can be found on Austin Public Library's YouTube channel. But right now, let's get back to our guests, librarians Patti Fowler and Ann Minner.
Yes, yes. So right before the break, and those lovely story from Nicole Bennett, Patti, you were telling us about these amazing stories that were nominated and the winner of. Can you finish that thought? We kind of abruptly stopped.
Absolutely. I just wanted to close with a few thoughts on Seeing Unburied Seeing, the winner of this year's National Book Award for Adult Fiction. And what is special about the book? The lyrical prose, the book's Southern Gothic aura, and this incredibly strong sense of place. The reader literally feels as though they are in the pecan groves of Mississippi and along the dusty roads of rural Mississippi. And ghosts. There is a strong presence of ghosts, both literal and literary. As Leonie is going is driving northward to Parchment Farm, she is visited by two ghosts, one of whom is her brother who had been murdered decades before. So it's just a very beautifully written Southern story.
And can you refresh me on, this is Jessamine Ward?
Jessamine Ward.
Jessamine Ward. And the name of the book again?
Seeing Unburied Seeing.
And I imagine the library has that book in our collection. Is that
The library has that book in our collection.
Pretty cool.
Yes, we do.
I love that when that happens.
That's awesome.
Isn't that how that happens?
We usually tend to have those National Book Award books.
The library has all of the
books.
National Book Award.
We've got one job.
Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit, Anne, about the youth books that have won awards or been nominated for these awards.
So for the short list, first let me just have a caveat here that Patti is the master of book talking, and so I am not going to come across quite as eloquently as she, but that's okay.
Thank you.
I've got
It's not a competition, girls.
Not a competition.
Now you tell me. So there were, I'll talk about 5, but very quickly. The first book that was on the short list is What Girls Are Made Of by Alana K. Arnold. And this one really gets real and examines the teen girl life and the different things that happen. It's episodic, and people have talked about it being very raw, and there's lots of emotion, and then there's also a lot of reality in this one.
Is it woke?
Maybe, but I don't know that she would use that term, perhaps. I have not read this, but it is one of them on my list, so that's what I've heard about. The other one is by Rita Williams Garcia, who is a very prominent author. She's wonderful. She wrote Clayton Bird Goes Underground, and this is about a young boy whose grandfather dies, and his grandfather was a blues player. And so this little boy goes on this journey because he wants to play blues too, and he takes his pork pie hat, and he goes off through New York City subways at Washington Square Park. And if you're a fan of Jason Reynolds or Kwame Alexander, this is one of the books that you're going to want to read this year. Another one is called American Street, and it's by E.B. Zaboy. And this one is about a young Haitian immigrant who ends up on the west side of Detroit on her own. Her mother is detained in a detention center when they immigrate. And the story has a lot of magical realism and a lot of references to the voodoo culture. So that one has gotten a lot of high praise as well. Wow. The one that is next on my list, literally the next one I want to read, is called I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, and it's by Erica L. Sanchez. And this one is about a young adult who loses her sister, and she still has to live with her family who expected perfection from the oldest sister, and now all the perfection has been pushed onto her. Oh. And she's rebelling against that. The title is I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter. But it's on the next one on my list because people are touting it as, get this, a combination of The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian.
Oh, that was a great book.
And Jane the Virgin. So it sounds amazing. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that one's next. That's in my hold queue.
Ooh.
But the winner of this year's was called Far from the Tree by Robin Benway. And this is a soulful and surprising book that addresses these topics of adoption and teen pregnancy and foster care. So it's quite timely. I did get a chance to read this one, which is awesome. So we meet Grace. She's 16, and she's an only child. She was adopted when she was an infant, and she's just about to have her baby.
Oh, wow.
And the boy's parents are not having any of this, and they in fact have visited her at the house while she is pregnant and told her that their son is now dating a good girl and will have nothing more to do with we don't like them. So we're with her as she chooses the parents to give this baby up for adoption, and she struggles with the aftermath of all the choices that have led her here. And while she's struggling with this, she finds she talks to her adoptive parents about her biological family, and they say, you have siblings. And so she goes and she finds a younger sister, Maya, who is having problems of her own because she was adopted as an infant, and then her parents immediately had another child, a biological child. So she's like the only brunette in this like super pale, curly, redheaded family.
Wow.
So she's got issues there, and her family fights a lot. And they both meet their older brother, Joaquin, who was never adopted, and he's been in the foster care system, and he's now close to 18 years old. But he's living with two people who want to adopt him, but he's dragging his feet because of all these other things that you find out in the book. So you've got these wonderful parents, you've got these horrible parents, you've got all these different things. And so during this whole book, everyone's trying to get to know each other. They're getting to see everybody's family in different incarnations. And so as I was trying to think about the description of this book, this is what I came up with. This story is about the family you were born into, the family that chooses you, the family that loses you, and the family that you choose yourself.
Wow.
It's so
deep.
I know.
So heavy.
And we have this book at the Austin Public Library.
I'm going to put it on my list.
You can just put it on hold right there. It's
And
like
these are for teenagers, but adults can read them too, right?
Absolutely, because I am way past being a teenager.
Well, I mean, that's the thing.
no, you're
It sounds
not.
like that covers almost all the perspectives you'd expect to come into in a situation like that.
It's so many different people. The character
And it's
development
sadly
is
not
wonderful.
such a rare occasion that we find our teens in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I really loved this book. I think it was a well-deserved winner. I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought they did a nice job on this one. And this is a book that I really, really liked. So
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, like I've
I
got
know.
my book
Can-
list
can we
just
wrap
got
this up? I gotta go
twice
read.
as long. Wow. So that you
So
said
was that teen area?
that would be in the teen area. Yes, all of those books. I believe that Clayton Bird Goes Underground could be in our juvenile fiction, but the others should be found in the young adult fiction.
Yeah, because each one of those seems like some pretty sophisticated content.
Very powerful list this year.
Yeah.
interesting. So let's talk about favorites. What are y'all's
Patty's got a good
personal
one.
favorites?
I have a lot of favorites this year. I read a lot of fiction. I guess my favorite this year is a book called The Sport of Kings by C.E. Morgan. It is just a beautifully written, sprawling, multi-generational saga about a wealthy family in Kentucky, the Forge family. And it goes back and forth in time over a 250-year period. And it goes back and forth from the Forge family as they immigrated to America. And also, there is another set of characters who are slaves, and they are escaping slavery in the Deep South. And over this 250-year period, these two sets of people, these two families, their lives connect. And so it's about this connection. And the sport in The Sport of Kings is horse racing. So it is set in Kentucky on a fabulous horse farm. And it's the book explores race, bigotry, love and redemption. The book opens actually with the line, "The 9-year-old Henry Forge is tearing through a cornfield, and he's trying to escape punishment that he knows he deserves." And the narrator is saying, "Henry, Henry, Henry Forge," someone hollers. And then the narrator takes over, and the narrator says, "How far away from your father can you run?"
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that probably hit every guy in the gut.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah.
So that's your favorite of all the fiction
that's
you read
my
this year?
favorite. That's my favorite because she just develops these characters so wonderfully. And just one more thought about the book. Henry loves his mother, Lavinia, but he despises his father because he is a racist, he is a bigot, he is mean, he's evil. And yet, Henry grows up to be just like him.
No.
Even though he recognized it as a child.
Yes, he grows up to be just like his
Because
father.
of the society he lived in?
But
Or?
it doesn't end, and it doesn't end on a bad note. It's
good.
just a beautiful book.
Right? Saved.
And I also enjoyed Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders, and I could talk all day about the books that
I was going to say,
enjoy.
your favorite
Yes.
book is the one you just finished.
That's right. That's right.
Well, keep going. Tell us about this other book.
Lincoln in the Bardo. Well, Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. Saunders is typically a short story writer. This is his first novel. It won the major Booker Prize this year.
Oh, kudos.
And this book is, the setting is in a graveyard. And Willie Lincoln has just passed away, and he has been buried. And his father, President Lincoln, visits him in the graveyard. And in the graveyard are all these ghosts, and they are in the Bardo, which is a halfway point between Earth and the hereafter. And so some of them recognize him as the president, and others don't. They passed away long before Lincoln became president. But it's about Lincoln and his grief. He goes and in the book he holds his son, Willie, and he is just extremely grief-stricken.
Oh.
Yeah.
A lot of ghosts in your books.
A lot of ghosts in
that
my
you've been
books. What
reading.
does that say about me?
You're spooky.
That sounds so fascinating.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
like, ooh. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the library's website, and I'm gonna get on Bibliocommons, and I'm gonna find these books, and I'm gonna add them to my hold
Add 'em
list.
to your hold list.
Absolutely.
Excellent idea,
Absolutely.
Kanye.
And put them on your later list if you can't get to them.
So you don't
That's right.
forget.
That's what I'm gonna
Yes.
do.
Will y'all be writing up a blog or anything listing some of these?
In all our free time?
Yeah, in all your free
When
time?
we're not at
Because
work reading
managers
books.
don't have
While writing from one
anything to
branch
do.
to another branch?
That's right. I don't have any plans for a blog. The National Book Award does a pretty nice job of summarizing everything. So,
But you never know what's in our future. We just might.
It's true.
We
It's
just
true.
might.
Oh, I'm encouraging it. Anyway.
Well, I wish we could keep talking, but it looks like we're almost out of time. I'm so grateful that you ladies both came on and told us
Thank
about
you
these
for
cool books. We'll
having
have to
us.
have you come back. Both of y'all are really good at these
Yeah,
book
and
talks.
I want to say this is the second time we've had you on together, right? Yeah, this is a nice...
No.
No,
never
first
been
time.
on
They've
together.
both been on, but separately.
But separately. Oh, it's a good pairing. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, thanks so much, ladies. And for people listening out there, this is Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show on Co-op 91.7 FM and streaming at koop.org. And there are details about our show online at library.austintexas.gov/volumes. There, on that webpage, there's actually a list of books that are recommended on this show. So we'll add the ones that we talked about today to that list. And, if anybody wants to check it out, it's there. And thanks to Federico Pacheco for all his help. And stay tuned to 91.7 and koop.org for rock and roll pest control.
Thanks for listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Special thanks to our producer, DJ Harris, and to the musicians who composed and performed our original theme song, Andrew Noble on violin, Kirk Duvall on guitar, and Mike Wheat on percussion. And thanks to you, our listeners. Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show, airs Wednesday afternoons at 2:30 on Co-op 91.7 FM and koop.org. If you catch us mid-show, full episodes and other details can be found at library.austintexas.gov/volumes.